Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Forged by Fire, the podcast where we explore the significant topics shaping our world today. In each episode, we'll engage in thoughtful discussions about current events, whether they're local news, national issues, or global happenings. From politics to culture, science to community stories, we aim to shed light on what matters most. Together, we will discover the stories that ignite our passions and inspire our actions. So tune in, share your thoughts, and be part of the conversation. This is Forged by Fire. Let's get into it.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Still the best intro in all of media. Is it possible to completely destroy the United States of America in less than 100 days?
We're shooting for it. We're going to find out.
We're finding out. As I was saying before, I looked back at one of our first recording sessions, and it was amazing how prescient all the predictions that we made turned out to be. Apparently, deporting millions of people doesn't make for positive images of your administration. Once people realize that immigrants are real people, it doesn't look good when you ship people off to El Salvador to prisons, and then you send people who aren't supposed to be deported at all, and then refuse to bring them back even after you admit you made a mistake. Egg prices up 60.4% since this time last year. We are dismantling every sector of the United States government. We are eliminating departments that are legally mandated to exist. I still don't know what my student loan bill is going to turn out to be, but I hear it's going to be quite incredible. I don't know where that money is going to come from. I made a video about the student loan crisis that's about to hit us when all these payments become due, and all these people are already in default, and the American economy is on the hook for $1.7 trillion when these people default on their loans, and they're going to have to find a way to pay for that. It's going to take a bailout. The country is a disaster. It's exactly as we predicted it. I didn't expect him to go this far in less than 100 days, but he did. We were right. They were wrong. And now he's even losing his most diehard supporters who won't even come on here because they're afraid to defend him. His job approval rating is now lower than Joe Biden's, who he claimed was the worst president in the history of the United States. So where do you want to begin, and where do you want to go from here?
Where to begin? You know, as bad as everything is that you pointed out, I keep coming back to the fact that just imagine if we had, I don't know, what do you need, 4 to 5 members of the Republican Party to grow a backbone? This could easily come to an end, either through stonewalling his ambitions or, if it called for it, a vote for impeachment. Not that J.D. Vance would be much better, but I do think removing the self-prescribed king from the throne would send a message, and maybe we can get things back on track. But, you know, it was predictable by anybody who had half a brain. And I guess we start with the economy. I think at this point, a recession is the best case scenario, which is absolutely terrifying. But I don't know that I've ever seen a time in our history where this was self-inflicted like it is here. He has gone back and forth, really negotiated or argued with himself. He says he's, going back and forth with China. China says no such thing has even occurred yet. He has leveled all these tariffs on these countries and then says, we're going to put a 90-day pause. And his supporters eat it up. Part of the deal, I guess, whatever that means. So I would say at this point in time, a recession is probably the best case scenario. But, when you get rid of this many people, you fire this many people from their full-time jobs, because these are people at the end of the day who, as much as these people want to say that they were a waste of space, that a lot of things, either, behind the scenes or in front of the camera, it doesn't matter. A lot of functions at these jobs, from your national parks to aiding immigrants in this country. And when you get rid of that many people and they are now looking for a job, it does further damage to an already shaky economy. So imagine the record numbers of unemployment that we probably have right now. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I don't really need them. And, it's funny because the other day at work, I work with for the utility company, help people get assistance with their bills. So LIHEAP, things like that, energy and crisis programs. When immigrants come here, or if you just have homegrown people here who are looking for assistance, they're doing so because these are everyday necessities. You need water, you need electric, you need heat. When people don't have those basic necessities, we're talking, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is at the very bottom, the very basics that you need to live. When you don't even have that, when that is not a guarantee when you wake up every day, things can go bad quick. And all this is to say, we hear all the time about the party of law and order, and they want to make America safe again and great again. Think about what this is going to do, these cuts to things like LIHEAP and all these programs that help immigrants kind of gain their footing in this country when they come here to become better citizens or escaping war, poverty, whatever it may be. When you take away pillars within the community that assist these people with everyday living, with their mental health, what do you think is going to happen to the crime rate? And in turn, what do you think happens to your property value? All these things that affect us, and yet, they follow this guy and they will to the grave under the guise of, well, America first, and the immigrants are taking our job. I don't know. You can go on and on, but you get my point here. This is bad. It's only going to get worse. And I think some of them are finally seeing now, well, I thought it was only going to be these people getting deported. I didn't know it was going to be my relatives, or I only thought this was going to happen. I didn't know the tariffs are going to affect our crops or our soybeans or whatever it may be. So I don't know. I just think at this point in time, a recession is the best case scenario.
We're probably already in one. When we started, I even forgot about the whole tariff disaster. I don't know whether he actually believes that what he's doing is good policy, or he is intentionally trying to destroy the country and the economy at this point just to prove a point. I seriously don't know.
I mean, I'm of the opinion that he ran again only because he knows as long as he is in office or around that office, he is safe. He's not going to go to jail. He's not going to go to prison. He's a 34-time convicted felon. So much for, backing the blue and being party of law and order. But it's a good point. I don't know how to answer that question, because on one hand, you would think that somebody couldn't possibly be that diabolical, right? Or that stupid or that unaware. But we are talking about somebody who bankrupted a casino. I don't know how that's possible. I don't know how that is humanly possible. But
I was always under the impression that they were rigged so that the house can't lose.
It's a cash cow. But yeah, so I don't know. I do think that it is part ego and trying to prove a point. But again, you can only do so much before I think people wake up, and then you start. And we've already gotten to the point where you're talking about people's retirement money. I'm in a fortunate situation where I'm young and got years to go, so I can withstand the ups and the downs, right? But somebody who was just planning on retiring or just retired, I mean, what do you say to them when this was totally self-inflicted and avoidable, when they wake up and within one day they lose thousands upon thousands of dollars because this idiot is getting us into a war that we can't win, frankly, that benefits nobody? And that's the thing. I don't know who would benefit.
It's totally unnecessary. And I have no reason why he would think this is a good idea. I have no reason why the people who are advising him would think this is a good idea. And just this morning, he said because of his tariffs that 200 countries have contacted him to try to work out a better trade deal with the United States. The problem is there aren't 200 countries in the world. How much bullshit can you feed the American people before they finally catch on? We had an entire campaign where he fed people full of bullshit, and they bought it all. They bought all of it. And it was okay because we were going to own the libs, but now that he's not drawing a distinction between the people that he's going after, well, now everybody's having second thoughts. I don't feel sorry for these people. I can't, because The information was there. Everybody was very clear about where this was going to go. Everybody knew he was going to try to take the presidency into an authoritarian direction, and they're getting exactly what they voted for. He told them exactly what he was going to do. Promises made, promises kept. And for whatever reason, nobody took him at his word. I mean, granted, he does lie with every sentence that he puts out there, but on the important issues, he fooled his own followers, and now they're paying the price too, and now all of a sudden we're supposed to care. It's too late to care now. The damage is done. Even if he were to leave office in 4 years, it's going to take decades to undo the damage that he has done to this government. It no longer functions. The Defense Department is a disgrace, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Their alcoholic defense secretary having his classified meetings on public channels where the Russians and the Chinese can just eavesdrop on America's most held secrets. He is basically eliminating the Department of Education if he hasn't already. I mean, I think they have like 20 employees. The IRS is gutted. I don't know how they're even going to collect the taxes that he wants to cut. Like we said, the price of gasoline has not come down. If anything, it's remained steady. The price of eggs is higher than it was under Biden. That's always been most important to me. I believe I just saw a dozen of eggs is $6.40, which I said is up 60.4% from this time last year. All this stuff he came in and said he was going to fix on day one, he's only found a way to make it worse. And again, I ask myself, is he intentionally trying to destroy the country and everything in it to get even for everyone going after his criminal actions? Is he just angry at the world and angry at the country that he wants to kill it? Or does he honestly believe in these policies that he's espousing? And I don't know the answer to that question, because I don't think you could even attempt to even more intentionally destroy the economy to raise unemployment. I mean, I can't wait till these unemployment numbers come out and continue to come out, because the unemployment is always a lagging indicator. Even with the people that he has laid off from the federal government are going to put up the unemployment numbers. Now, here he is out there saying that he's creating the best economy the country's ever seen. And there's no way that the unemployment rate isn't going to rise. And he was supposed to build us the best economy ever. I'm at a loss here.
It was going to be a golden era, back to the golden age. And here we are. I believe he just went after Rupert Murdoch because Fox News, of all stations, showed his approval rating and how the only person who was ever lower, or was it's lower than his first time around. I mean, you can't make it up. I did have to laugh the other week when Fox News is always shown the live stock market update, and during the downfall last week, I noticed that they completely removed that from their ticker at the bottom, which was hilarious. But yeah, I agree. I pride myself on being someone who is empathetic, right? Sort of shaped who I am and my views, of course. And I hate to see people suffer, but I do not feel an ounce of pity or sympathy for anyone who voted for this. It's a shame that others are going to suffer who did not ask for this, who saw this coming, because, I mean, they remembered the first 4 years. And I don't know. I mean, I think COVID totally wrecked people's brains, for starters. I think there's a lot of trauma that people have still not gotten over. I think misinformation reached its peak during COVID, still going strong, of course, but I think it wrecked everybody. But the people who saw this coming and, did not vote for this and voted their conscience, those are the ones I feel bad for. The ones who voted for him, believing all the complete and utter bullshit, I'm sorry, but you dug your own grave, and now we're all in this boat because of you. And I don't, I saw something the other day that a conservative talking point had put out there, and they said they couldn't help but notice that a bunch of their activities that they like to do, whether it was, I don't know, bowling or going out and having a game night or just going to pubs or whatever it may be, they always found themselves, it led to liberal people who they considered to be friends, but it was frustrating because they found that it always led to people who were liberal, and so therefore they didn't bring up stuff. And they said it doesn't seem like they go out and they find other conservatives. And it's funny because I am at the point where I wouldn't care if we had a conservative president And when I say conservative, I mean in the traditional sense of, I guess, Eisenhower, Theodore Roosevelt, even George Bush, right? Back before this maniac came along. If we had a Republican president, then so be it, as long as they were defending the Constitution, trying to improve America. I'm not going to agree with a bunch of things that they say, but if they are actually in there to uphold the oath and have our best interests in mind, then so be it. But I've gotten to the point where I don't want to associate with these people. I don't want to go out and look for these people. I have nothing to say to these people. I don't want to be around somebody who is a bigot, who believes bullshit stereotypes about people, who is homophobic, who thinks that other people should not have the same rights and privileges that they do. I don't. There's a moral disconnect there, and I personally don't. I have nothing to say to those people. I don't want to keep their company. So if you voted for this, I think at any point in time, you've had 8, 10 years now. How long has he been around now? We're going on over a decade at this point. You've had opportunity after opportunity for self-reflection, and you wonder why people have become alienated and aren't coming around or don't include you in things. I don't know. He always says that the idea was to drain the swamp, and I think anybody with half a brain could tell you that these are the worst people that you could ever know that are holding these positions, whether it's Pete Hegseth or Pam Bondi. I just saw something today where he pardoned a woman in, I think it was Nevada, who was using the funds for fallen police officers for her own personal gain. She was stealing charity funds, and he pardoned her. What's the excuse for that? What's the excuse?
And
And yet
politically, what do you gain from that?
they will defend him no matter what. And so I'm done with it. There's no talking to these people. They don't live in the same reality. I lost a lot of respect for people, to say the least. I agree with you 100%. I do not feel bad for them. They made their own bed, and now they can lie in it.
And again, and I've made this point several times, it comes back to the fact that it is no longer cool to be informed. It is no longer cool to know about issues, to read things. We're banning books instead of reading them. We no longer care about history. We don't want to know about it. We want to rewrite it, in fact. And that's how the saying goes, those who don't understand history are bound to repeat it.
And we have
I'm going to hold off making any Hitler reference because nothing good comes from that. But if you are a student of history, you will see quite clearly that is the exact same path that we are on. So far, he hasn't done anything illegal enough while he's been in office that warrants impeachment. But when he finally does not follow a court order, which basically when they
they're going to say he's a
when they, whoever it was, to El Salvador or wherever we're renting out a prison these days, which I'm not even sure how that's legal or constitutional, that we can send prisoners to other countries to be held. If you ask me, that makes them hostages.
Well, we're now discussing due process because these folks have no idea what due process is. That much is evident over the past 3 weeks, that people have no clue what due process is. And if you're okay with sending a citizen or a non-citizen, it doesn't matter. If you were on American soil, you are entitled to due process. It is in the United States Constitution, the same Constitution that these people claim to defend up and down. You are entitled to due process, and they don't have any clue as to what that is. So here we are again. Like you said, it is now cool to just be a total ignoramus.
What was I going to say?
Something about Trump.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me. And the point we need to keep making, and this is the part that requires a little bit of critical thinking that people don't do anymore. He has quite literally created an environment and a situation where if you're walking down the street, no matter who you are, whether it's you, whether it's me, whether the people I work with, my neighbors, they can just snatch you off the street and deport you to a prison in El Salvador. You never see a judge. You never get to make your case. You never get to explain to anybody that they have no justification for sending you out of the country. They basically now just kidnap you. Again, I believe that's the definition of a hostage. If we send you to another country and you're being held there for no legitimate legal reason, and that country refuses to return you when a judge orders you to be returned, are you indeed not a hostage? Are we indeed not taking hostages now?
I mean, is it not authoritarianism at its finest? I'm waiting for the next step is going to be if you speak out anything negative against the office of the President of the United States, you are going to get thrown in jail, because that's basically where this is all heading, unless somebody, says enough is enough, because you cannot claim to be an oath keeper of the Constitution of the United States and not support the right to free speech. So to me, that's where this is all heading. You start rounding people up on the street for whatever reason, like you said, it was for a while, it seemed to be based on your skin tone, but now I think it's going to be to the point where it's just anybody who we deem might not be here legally or we don't like or said something.
It's just somebody who spoke out against me, my political enemy, us for even sitting here having this conversation. Anyway,
Here's my thing. What really burns me. These are the people who clearly did not pay attention in fifth grade history. Most likely flunked or nearly flunked out of high school. And, their calling card is always, it's not really him, it's the media. It's always the media trying to spin something or not being truthful. Meanwhile, they'll take anything that he or his press secretary or his cronies say as gospel, which is hilarious because they lie through their teeth. But if you just watch the way that he communicates with people, his demeanor, his decorum towards people, the things he says to people who, rightfully ask him questions. You are the commander in chief in the most powerful position in the world, practically. People have a right to question you, to interview you, to investigate. The way in which he treats people is not in any way, shape, or form how I was brought up to treat people. And I know it's not how most people were brought up to treat people. And yet, they sit back and relish in it and they love it because they think that, it's funny. Or, imagine if the rules were reversed and Barack Obama was insulting people and cutting them off and telling them that they no longer had access to the Oval Office and it was just going to be Obama News Network. Imagine the reaction that these conservatives, these constitutionalists, these purists would have. It just boggles my mind that somehow we've gone from Romney and Obama and McCain who disagreed but could treat each other with dignity to this fat pig who is just, I don't know. I have nothing good to say about him. There are no redeeming qualities for me. I am left-leaning. I can have a conversation with a conservative who is level-headed, but there's nothing good I could say about these people. So
let me tell you where we're headed. Let me tell you what's going to happen. And I can't believe we haven't already started moving that way. But as much as he says he is pro-Second Amendment, the only way that an authoritarian can truly take over the country and to take over the people is to get rid of guns. And I have a feeling very shortly he's going to have a different take on the Second Amendment. And I have a feeling that he's going to try very hard to start to confiscate these guns so that the people cannot save themselves from a tyrant, as was the intention of the Second Amendment. The right to form a well-regulated militia to take down the king if it ever came to that. He's not going to be able to have total control over all of the population if they can shoot back. And I'm telling you, the next item on his agenda, a Republican, Donald Trump, mark my words, is going to come for your guns. It's not going to be Kamala Harris. It's not going to be Joe Biden. It's not going to be Barack Obama. It's going to be Donald Trump. And when has he ever kept his word? When has he ever kept his word? And, he goes out there and supports the Second Amendment. And he wants to increase gun rights. So you have to take that to mean, seeing as how he does exactly the opposite of everything he says, that's what's coming next. And I can't wait. I can't wait till his supporters get to see him and the Republican Party come after their guns.
Well, then they're going to be in quite a dilemma.
And at that point, we're in a civil war. The guy who came into office to end all wars is going to be the guy to start the second civil war.
It's funny because I say all the time, how do you not see that the country became so divided and violence so heightened around the time that he started running his mouth as Obama carried out his second term? He is the one who started the whole idea that he was not born in this country. The whole, the Kenya story made up, and it took off from there. He's never been shy to just flat out lie. The comments about Senator Warren, the comments about basically anybody, the mocking of the man, I think on the autism spectrum, certainly disability. Anything you can think of, this guy has been the center of it, and people have the audacity to sit back and say that we've been divided. This is 90% of his doing. To your point, basically what he says, you can almost expect the opposite. I actually think that 90% of the things that he says, he does not actually believe himself. I do think that there is a lot of Democrat in him. I think he speaks the truth when he says that if I were to run for office, I would run, as a Republican because these people were so easily fooled. I mean, I think for as dumb as he's been and for as idiotic as his decisions are, I think he knows what he's doing. I think it's a game to him because I think he knows he can get away with it at this point. It's almost like, how far can I push the envelope? How much can I truly do? And at his age, what is he, 75, 76?
78.
70.
70.
Oh my God. So why not? You know what I mean? At this point, it's almost like a game. I have the highest title virtually in the world. I am the commander in chief. I have a base who would basically take a bullet for me or justify if I shot their kid. So why not just keep going? I don't know. Will he go that far as to try to confiscate people's guns? I don't know.
If he wants to be a true authoritarian, that's what he's going to have to do.
I mean, at what point do you think, and who do you think steps in? I mean, does little Marco Rubio? It's first of all, let me preface this by saying we are in a horrible, horrible spot when Marco Rubio is probably the most sane, level-headed person in the room. I mean, that is where we're at. But at what point? I mean, this is how many times that Hegseth has exposed, or who steps up, or when does it happen? I mean, do you think anything happens, and does it matter? Because is the Supreme Court ultimately going to rule against him or do anything about it?
Well, they have been, but
he hasn't been listening.
It's long to catch on to the fact that there is no enforcement mechanism to anything the courts say. He already knows that, and I don't even understand why he's still following the court orders that he follows, because as time goes on, he is moving in the direction of defying court orders, and he's trying to see how far he can push it and how much he can get away with it. But there is no enforcement mechanism if he decides to go against the Supreme Court. Defense mechanism would be the impeachment process at that point, but you have a Senate that doesn't have a backbone. You do not have the votes in the House to even draw up the articles of impeachment. I do believe, though, and I told somebody this the other day, I've watched. I worked in an organization where there's a power struggle every single day, and everybody's all fine and dandy as long as they have their little piece of authority. And Congress people and the senators alike like having their little bit of power. And as soon as they lose that power, as soon as it's taken away from them and they're powerless, we'll see how quickly they'll move to the other side when he screws up, and they'll try to take him down. Politics is a dirty business. There is no loyalty. When he screws up and after he has sufficiently screwed them over, they'll vote to impeach him. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know if he's going to make it through the entire term before it happens. I doubt it severely, because you hear everywhere, you read everywhere. Behind the scenes, these senators go into meetings and they are utterly horrified by what he's doing and what's going on. But they won't come out and say it publicly because they are afraid of him. They are afraid of the fact that if they speak against him, that he will use his vast resources and sums of money to eliminate their position. And that's a game you're only going to play for so long. And, it's like I always say, give a man enough rope, he'll hang himself. He's going to hang himself. And his Republican Party members, his MAGA Republicans, when they start to have their influence and their power infringed upon as a co-equal branch of government, that's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Every week that passes, there's more and more frustration and more anger behind the scenes, and it's starting slowly to leak out into the public. It's going to continue, and that's the slippery slope he's on, and I don't think he understands that.
I think you're more optimistic than I am. I want to believe everything you're saying, but I think that they're deathly afraid of retribution at this point. And it's so funny because, again, everything with these people, every accusation is a confession, whether it's in regards to pedophilia or corruption. I couldn't tell you how many Republican members of Congress or different state representatives have gone to jail for child pornography or something of that matter. Anyway, They sat back for years and said that Biden was weaponizing the DOJ and using political influence, and yet here we are with a crony Kash Patel as the director of the FBI going after people, and Pam Bondi threatening people. And we talked about before the idea of them starting to go after people who speak out against them. It's just never-ending hypocrisy. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see who has the stones to stand up against him, because if you do, if you're a Republican, you're probably committing political suicide unless you get more members to join you. And I don't know. It's hard to say right now because I don't know where MAGA is at. I don't know, are there enough of them who have said like enough is enough as these tariffs hit, as these policies come into play? Are there enough of them right now that say, whoa, this is going too far? We want a normal Republican? Because you have to remember most of the people in Congress right now of the Republican Party are MAGA. There are more MAGA now than there were in 2021, the day of the insurrection. So I'm not as optimistic. I think this is it's barreling towards something, but what that something is, I have no idea. And I don't know if it's one of those situations where I know it's going to get worse, but will it get better after it gets worse? I don't know, because I don't know what the aftermath would look like. And I also don't know that he will leave no matter what, whether he is impeached or not, whether he makes it to 2028, he's not going to leave. There's no way. As long as his heart is still beating, he is not going to leave. And so then what?
But case in point, I don't know if you've been reading about the situation with Ron DeSantis in Florida, who not so long ago considered himself king of Florida. All of a sudden, the Republican legislature in Florida wants to launch a criminal investigation into his misappropriation of $10 million. Either him or his wife, and I don't know where they funneled the money to.
DeSantis or Trump?
Ron DeSantis. I believe in Florida, the Republicans control both houses of their legislature. And they are now calling for a criminal investigation into his misuse of $10 million. I don't think anybody would have seen that coming, but to use that as an example, you can only treat people poorly for so long before they will hang you with your own rope. And it's exactly what's happening to him. And I do believe that's going to be what happens to Donald Trump. Mark my words.
I hope you are right.
From our very first episode, everything that we've talked about has been pretty much at least 95% accurate. And I think we're going to be pretty accurate with this episode as well. But we have to wait and see it play out.
Well, what I'm looking forward to next, I would be remiss if I didn't speak about the Pope's passing. I'm not Catholic, never was Catholic. Certainly a lot of things wrong with organized religion in general, and they are not absolved of that. But from a leadership standpoint, from a Christian standpoint, from a human being standpoint, I think that Pope Francis was much of what people should strive to be. I think that he did a great job leading with empathy and by example. He carried his own luggage. He refused to wear the fancy red shoes prior to becoming the Pope. He did not stay at the designated cathedral or home that he was supposed to be in. Very humble person. Compare that, or put that into contrast with somebody like Donald Trump, who sells counterfeit Bibles and has ripped off a university and stole funds from you name it. That type of person is. Doesn't matter. I cannot wait to see him and his administration when the new Pope is either Black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever it may be. They will call it a DEI hire because any minority in their eyes, it's impossible for them to achieve their status without it being handed to them. I guess that's in their eyes. Everything is DEI now. DEI is the new woke. So it'll be interesting to see them go after that holiness whenever the conclave is finished, whenever that may be.
I believe that the most qualified, most capable person should get the job. At the same time, people need to have fair opportunity to even be considered for a job. And that's where DEI comes in. We want to put people on an even playing field. We want to give people a chance at securing that job, which maybe without those programs, they wouldn't even be considered for. when they are the best candidates for the job. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there are DEI jobs out there and people got the jobs they don't deserve. But I mean, that's true in any aspect of life.
Like the White House,
Yes.
every cabinet member.
Yes. But we need to see it as putting people on an even playing field, that they can get the opportunity to go in there and compete and to show how valuable they really are to their organization. I don't think we should automatically, give a job to somebody because they are a minority. But you can be a minority and still be the most qualified person for the job. But if you don't get an interview, how do you prove yourself?
And that's the
That's
problem.
where I come down on this issue.
That's what it was always about. It was never about handing people a job based on their skin color. You said it perfectly. It should be the most qualified person. The issue was that there were so many people left in the dark who were likely the most qualified person who didn't get that chance. And that happened for decades. That was a result of systemic racism. It was redlining, you name it. And again, these are people who like to hijack terms and use them as fear-mongering and buzzword. DEI is not limited to the color of your skin. And even with DEI initiatives and effort, I believe Black women are still the lowest on the totem pole. But DEI covers things like disability. My cousin, who is deaf, DEI initiatives help him so that they ensure he gets a fair interview, like you mentioned, so that you're not discriminating against people just because they have a disability or because they're of a different religion, faith, race, whatever the case may be. I think that most people would agree it should go to the person most qualified. As you touched on, those qualified people were never getting the chance because of our nation's history. And so I can't wait to see how they try to label this the new pope, because there's a good chance it's going to be a Black male or an Asian male. So I can't wait to see what hillbilly JD Vance has to say about that.
It's obvious from my own life experience, and it's like I keep saying to people, I don't want special treatment. I want equal treatment.
Right. Equity.
I want you to put out a set of rules that we play by so that I can play the game fairly and have the fair opportunity to win or lose. And still, we are in that position. I can speak from experience. The only thing I've ever asked for was an even shot, an even chance. And until you've experienced it personally, until you've seen it personally, you don't understand it. I told somebody a couple weeks ago, we're to the point now where when you're different, you now get a shot, but you're never given a second chance. We're now at a period where it looks good that you interview somebody, but you still don't stand a chance.
All right, the optics.
The optics, that's where we're at now. We want to display optics, and you know my story, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Oh, that's all it comes down to. But
So you know
again,
what I'm doing now?
to try
Now I'm
to
gonna
explain that to people.
now I'm going back once again because I can't afford to pay my student loans back, so I may as well become a lifelong learner. Hopefully, I think I'm going to start it in June. I'm going to work on my PhD. So then I will work there and have a PhD. How do you explain that to people? Yeah, we'll leave that story there.
Well, in light of recent events, if you've never seen two movies, one The Two Popes and the other Conclave, highly recommend them just from a cinematic standpoint, regardless of what your views are. Just very informative movies on the process of electing a pope and what goes into that and what it means to a lot of people. Highly recommended. One is on Netflix, and the other is on Amazon Prime. So if you're bored,
Yeah, I take a look at that. I mean, I'm not a fan of organized religion. I see it as a money making scheme. I mean, I totally want people to be spiritual. I want people to believe in their God. I want them to have their religious beliefs. I just don't want to see them give up their hard earned money
Right.
to an organized religious group, for that money to be misused because God wants the leader of the church to have his own private jet to fly around the world and spread the word of Jesus. I want you to keep your money in your pocket. God doesn't need your money. God never wanted your money. Organized religion wants your money. There's a difference. I just wish more people understood that. I think with each passing generation, people realize that more and more. I mean, organized religion is becoming less and less popular. That's like I say, I don't begrudge anybody their spirituality. I don't begrudge anybody their belief in their God. But when it becomes a money-making scheme like Joel Osteen, who's making billions of dollars off of what I consider to be quite the fraudulent organization. If you ever wanted to launch an investigation into where he's getting his money from and how he's funneling it into his own personal life, I think that investigation would probably take about 15.
Agreed.
Anything else on your mind tonight?
No, I don't think so. I think we touched on everything I could think of right now going on. It's very hard to keep track because every day is just, oh God, do I even want to look? But
Less than 100 days, government torn to pieces, government agencies totally dysfunctional, the price of eggs going up, inflation going up. We're in a trade war with the world. We have launched tariffs on penguins. Fuel prices really haven't come down. They've remained steady. We did not end the war in Ukraine before we even entered the White House again. We are deporting people who are in this country legally. What else have we done? 100 days. I think I got most of it there.
you didn't get the memo. Losing money and paying more for things is good enough. It's good.
Yes,
It's your,
that's right.
it's your
yes.
patriotic duty.
Right. It's patriotic to pay
So,
more for eggs because, you have to invest in the future of egg prices coming down.
yeah.
As
There-
any economist will tell you.
Now you're learning.
Right. Now I'm getting it now. I can't wait till I get to vote for Trump for a fourth time in his next term.
Well, we shall reconvene. Let me know when.
Next week, same time, same place. And we have got to get ourselves a MAGA host, co-host, guest.
For somebody
Because-
who shares in our struggle, I don't care. Anybody at this point, somebody.
It is so hard to find somebody from the other side who's willing to go on the record and speak. I can't figure that out.
I'll take someone from our side, at least a third person to kind of mix things up, or maybe somebody could play moderator. I don't know, or ask us questions if we were candidates. We'll get creative somehow. Something.
Yeah, I mean, we need somebody to come on here and defend them. I mean, it's
I don't know. So
right.
if they can. That's the problem. He can defend himself.
it's only right. If somebody voted for him, tell me why you voted for him. I mean, I'm interested to hear what you have to say, but apparently you don't want to put it on the record. We'll figure it out. All right. Well, with all that, if you don't have anything else, may God bless you. May God bless your family. And of course, may God continue to bless the United States of America.
Roger that.
All right. Till next week. Good day.